juice, everyone. You're obviously confused and aroused. Then where are we now?
Do you have idiots on your planet?
It's me, Zoidberg, remember from high school?
Somebody kills somebody, blah, blah, blah. And you're listening to Slurmcast, a podcast for no reason. Today we'll be discussing Season 10, Episode 4, 40% Lead Belly. My name is Michelle Burlingame. Not with me are Tommy Roulette.
That is a really, really catchy song. Hi.
Pete Woodward.
I'm full of jackfruit.
And our guest today, Tim Cornett.
Hello. I have never tried jackfruit, although I'm a vegetarian.
It's all
and
right.
It keeps on popping up.
You know, I am not a vegetarian, but I'm on Weight Watchers, and it's a nice way to save points for drinking. It's actually very good.
Speaking of, I am a genius and I have created the most delicious drink of all time. And it is the grapefruit LaCroix or pamplemousse
Pamplemousse.
Mixed with Crystal Light pink lemonade mix. And I'm sure you could put vodka in there and it would still be great.
You absolutely could. That's almost what my backup is when I run out of the White Claws here. But since I've got the pineapple White Claws, I'm both maxing and relaxing right now. And full of jackfruit. And I cannot recommend it highly enough, Tim. It's, if you like the barbecue, and I would imagine as a vegetarian, it's just not as satisfying not having it, but it's put some sauce on there, broil it up, gets crispy like pulled pork. Fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll experiment with that. I spent the entire day building a fire pit.
There you
Nice.
go.
Or the first half of a fire pit.
What is just the hole? Or the wall?
There's a hole. I'm trying to be fancy with it because I'm trying to build it in the middle of the patio. There's an exhaust tube for airflow.
Fancy.
So
Wow.
I'm trying.
I mean, it's really just a big bong, isn't it?
It kinda.
And just, you know, you just need to get a screen and then like a 5-gallon bucket full of water.
Yeah.
It'll
And
be like you know. And then
Yeah,
you
I think like with one clever hose, I could turn all my entire backyard into a piece.
exactly. It'll be like my shop vac. You put the hose in one side and it sucks dirt up, and you put the hose in the other side and it blows air out. You know, you just
Oh my god! And then I time travel back to high school and then tell teenage Tim it all works out fine.
spend a lot of time with dogs. There's a nominally larger amount of incredible violence and hatred in the world, but you'd expect that as time passes. Other than that, it's fine.
Yeah, this is the world that my hillbilly parents always predicted.
I mean, you know, they say
What I didn't realize is that the entire world was hillbilly parents.
I mean, there's wisdom in them, our hills.
Ugh.
Unfortunately. I mean, I just want to start this off by saying I did not like this episode.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It just, I don't know, just brought in a lot of discontinuity. It was kind of a boring story. It seems sort of tired. It did have a Jumbotron with a dancing cat, which seemed all right. I don't know if it's one that we've seen before, but that, you know, that's always a bad sign at this point. If they're padding the intro, then they're like, we're 30 seconds short on jokes.
It's not even. It's like half a second. It's really not even that long of a intro for the.
You know, they cut it out for a reason though.
Yeah.
If they're tight for space, that Jumbotron's not going to be there, and this episode had it.
Yeah, I actually have a comment on that for the very end of the episode.
Okay. But then, you know, they started off with this going to a Leavenworth prison, and all I could think of is it looked like a giant kidney stone, which I've been fortunate not to have to deal with, but when I've seen them sort of like in medical oddity books and things, or been told about them by friends, I'm like, that seems like a horrible place to be.
Well, the name of the prison, Leavenworth Variable Security Prison, is like a really lame reference to the Leavenworth prison.
Right.
It's Leavenworth maximum security, so this is Leavenworth variable security, and it's just like a dumb, like, it's not even a math joke, it's just like, this sounds like math.
It's a pun.
Yeah, these later episodes, they're all very pleased with themselves. Like, they've all been congratulated just a little too much.
Yeah,
we tricked a bunch of money, aren't we, boys? But it was Dr. Brutaloff. I mean, I don't remember him from a previous episode. He seemed to be an established character that they were delivering him in his carbonite chamber. So he's just a one-off for this thing. But they got hired to move him.
They had their uniforms on.
Yes.
Like they did in 31st Century Fox.
Yes.
And Leela also had the wind. It looked like the wind was constantly blowing.
Yeah.
But Fry's hands weren't sewed to his pants.
They probably had to fix that. It was probably hard for him to deliver packages with his hands sewn to his pants.
Well, I mean, this.
Can I ask a question? Can I interject with a tangent?
Always.
Can people bring up Futurama around you guys, or do you have to like, oh, I know everything about Futurama? Or do you have to let the conversation go by because you know too much?
I've forgotten more than I've ever known, honestly.
Yeah, I don't bring it up unless someone else brings it up first.
To be honest, this podcast has kind of made this show like hit a notch down of like...
Yeah.
It's not as fun watching it when you have to like do something. It's more fun when you're just watching it to watch it. So,
or it's on in the background or whatever.
Yeah, it became more
amazing about this.
Tired of it.
What's amazing about this is that we are in season 10. Like every other kind of podcast like this, nobody made it.
I mean, that's honestly, that's the only reason we're still going, Tim. We're like, we're so close. We're gonna do it.
Close.
We're gonna nail in that last. I'm gonna hammer in the last nail.
But more often than not, the way that it gets brought up to me is a friend will say, "Oh, my 13-year-old son loves that show. He found out you had a podcast and got real excited." I'm like, "That's great. He shouldn't be listening to it."
Yeah.
You know, like it's not, but it has the explicit tag. But yeah, I mean, at this point, my bandwidth in my brain is just so fucking full on all the time. And then I use alcohol to deaden that and just get back to like a flat line of normalcy. So stuff like this, it's like I take my notes. I watched this a week and a half ago. I'm looking at the notes hoping I remember what happened, you know? And that's why I'm like, this Dr. Brutaloff guy, is he a guy? I've only seen 117 episodes of this show. What's he? But I mean, that thing where they were mixing like the Star Wars carbonite and all this other shit, you know, they're borrowing liberally from other things. But the thing that there's kind of two parts to it when they're in that main holding area of the prison. One, the convicts are hooting at Leela, and Fry's not upset about it. And they've established over the last few episodes that they're back to being hot and heavy again. That seems like something Fry would get jealous of. Well,
he wasn't there. He moved away. He went to go take the Dr. Brutaloff.
Well, she sends them off. She says, "Fry, Bender, you go take Dr. Brutaloff, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to stay here and get hooted at." Like you know, I think it's more he knows that she just wants the attention than that he should be jealous.
Well, and then the other thing that seemed like a missed opportunity that they would take advantage of almost any other time was they had all the prisoners kind of up in the big display. Like they didn't focus in on anybody and have like, here's these people, like when they do the head museum stuff and they're like, oh, there's this, like, it was just like, here's some anonymous prisoners. And that seems like something that in past seasons they would have like honed in on a little bit and made it, put jokes in there, and instead they just glossed it over for this dumb thing about, Fry getting attacked by the thought out Dr. Brutaloff, and then moving on immediately to Silicon Red.
Yeah.
Which, what was that supposed to be a reference to besides Red in Shawshank?
I mean, I don't know.
I think it's just a vague bluesy name.
Yeah.
All right, like Stevie Ray Vaughan or something. Just throw a Wayne in the middle or something like that, and then you're fine.
Well, I think it's supposed to be like the Borax Kid was like he's like an element and a material and a thing. I don't know.
Silicone Red kind of sounds like a drug in another science fiction show, like like the one that's taken over everything.
That's what's in the pills that Neo takes, and all of the men's rights activists.
Yeah, they're all on Silicone Red. It's slowly released through their fedora.
Well, and also his guitar is named Salmonella, which like I don't really know that there's no reason that the guitar's named Salmonella. I don't get that.
I think it's just a vaguely feminine sounding name, or a vaguely feminine sounding word. But then I was listening to a lot of Soul Coughing this week, and there's some song where I think he just drops in the word salmonella that has no context to anything. It just sounds okay. And I get that.
There's gotta be a reason. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like,
that's such a random word. Like, you can't, like, come on. There's gotta be a reason.
I mean, if it is it on the infosphere? Because it's not anything that
right now.
Yeah, I'm looking too. It just says that Silicon Red is possibly from the rock alien planet that they land on in the Newtopia episode where they all switch genders. That's where Borax Kid was from.
Oh, right.
So I think I'm right. I think it's just
he's a rock man made out of silicon, and he's red. All right, fair enough.
Okay.
I like that Bender decides he's just going to make a copy of the guitar, though, which is, I mean, that's a big money business right now. You make that exact copy down to like all the nicks and scratches of the famous guitar, and then you can sell that shit brand new for like tens of thousands of dollars. Like here's the what's like they make a bunch of Eddie Van Halen guitars that have been like artfully destroyed to look like his shit.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But if you buy the brand new one that looks like it's off the showroom floor, same paint job and parts and everything, that'll set you back about $3,000. But to have some asshole take a soldering iron and a fucking hammer and a paint scraper to it, that jacks the price up significantly because they're sitting there with sandpaper trying to make it look beat up. It's just, it drives me nuts. Like, play the thing and make your marks on it.
Yeah. My problem
I agree
with him 3D printing the guitar is that was clearly like an acoustic guitar, so therefore it was wood. He's not 3D printing wood, he's 3D printing plastic.
This is 1,000 years in the future, Tom. They might be.
I just don't think that any plastic could replace the way a like sound goes through wood or vibrates.
Tell that to
wood.
Tell that to every 80s rocker who played a power ballad on an Ovation guitar with those nice round back plastic things.
I'm just saying it wouldn't be an exact clone of it.
I mean, look, Dr. Beeler had a formula for taking a beautiful object and reducing it. But yeah, what was that supposed to be a reference to? Anything?
It's
or
Ken Keeler,
one of the writers.
He wrote this episode and the finale.
He's been in it before.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, Ben Beeler's been in it before. He's just that scientist that's in it a lot. That's just his name.
I just love that he's like, I've got a formula for taking a beautiful object and reducing it down to a formula for easy mass production. I call it science.
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah. I mean, that's at the base of it. That's how you monetize it.
Has anybody ever used a 3D printer?
No.
Not personally, but I have friends who do.
My daughter has a 3D printing pen. So you can like, you basically get a silicon mat and you can just draw it's like a, it's the size of a pen and it's got a heating element in it. And the filament feeds in through the back and melts as you draw it. So you draw it and then it adheres to itself and hardens so you can build stuff up. I mean, it's hugely time consuming. There's a lot of people, if you go on YouTube, that have done some really amazing things with that. Personally, I like to drive myself crazy other ways because it's really like.
Can you stop and then start again later?
Yeah. That's the whole point. When the plastic is hot, it should adhere to the other plastic. It's almost like if you had a soldering iron that fed the solder through the tip of it.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You went.
That's
yeah.
Cool.
So that's what it does. I mean, it is really neat in theory. The coolest thing she made with it was a spoon that I don't want her to eat off of because who knows what the fuck is in that plastic. But she actually
chili test it.
Yeah. But she made a fucking spoon and she did reinforcements on the little dip in the neck and stuff. I'm like, all right. I wish you were this excited about the rest of science or math or anything other than Roblox and TikTok, but here we are. And I think she's totally forgotten about it because she hasn't used it in months. So good for her.
What are Roblox? I know what TikTok is.
So Roblox is basically a different version of Minecraft. It's okay. Similar. It's a little more colorful. It's a little more playful. It's not as like everybody in it still looks like a Lego person, but you basically run around and build houses or decorate houses or some shit. And she always asks me for money to buy the currency that exists in that world. And then I have to say no. And then it becomes an ongoing argument. And I try to explain to her, I don't want you spending money on this shit because it's literally worthless. Like you are not getting anything in return. And then more to the point, some dickhead actually ripped her off because you're allowed to you collect animals and you create your own little menagerie or something. So she acquired some super rare thing, right? Like some kind of neon parrot, whatever that they don't pop up all the time, but she managed to snag one. And you can do these trades with people, and someone she didn't know offered to trade for it, took it, and then broke off the trade deal and disappeared. And she comes down, like I'm outside cooking dinner or something on the grill, and she comes out like tears streaming down her face. I'm just like, I'm sorry, this is a hard lesson to learn. Don't do fucking business with people you don't know. Mm-hmm. Don't, especially on the internet. And just be happy that this is literally something that is worth nothing. They didn't take money. They didn't hurt you. They didn't do any of this stuff. But boy, explaining that to a 10-year-old that's distraught over losing a neon parrot, it only goes so far.
Oh, man.
Fucking so many assholes on the internet.
True.
I just like the whole Wi-Fi connection to Bender seemed kind of dumb. To the 3D printer.
Oh, how he has 100 terabytes of porn and a 1 terabyte memory.
Well, I thought it was 100,000 terabytes of porn,
maybe it was.
Which still, at this point, almost seems like, charmingly small given the storage capacities we already have today. But then when it goes onto Dr. Beeler's computer, it's like Windows 95.
He also has to crank Bender to send the Wi-Fi signal.
Right. I did like the little Wi-Fi spikes coming off of his head, like the waves or the the stink lines off of his antenna. But just the 16-bit animation stuff on the computer that Dr. Beeler was using. It's like I don't know. It's just it all goes to my feeling that this episode was really kind of lazy, and if I'm having to do work to watch the lazy episode and take notes on it, I expect at least a little something in return.
Yeah, I would agree that it's lazy. Like the whole thing is like, remember that Bender folk thing?
Yeah, right.
We can squeeze another one out of that.
Yeah, it's like
it could have really been better, but I feel like they could have had like a guest as the folk singer,
Right.
and that would have made
Right.
it better. Like,
Well, like
you know,
like they did with the old one when they brought on Beck.
right, exactly.
And-
And the last one, or the one that's 31st Century Fox, had Patrick Stewart as one of the voices. They didn't do as many guest stars on this show as they did back before it was canceled.
I think they were just working off that sweet cable Comedy Central money. Or what it might have been is that Comedy Central didn't have the same clout that like Fox did when they're like, you can come on this show because, you know, if you don't, you're not going to get on the Winner or The Simpsons or Ally McBeal or whatever the fuck was going on at the time. I just feel like that when they recycle a plot like that, it's almost like the same shit The Simpsons does when they, you know, they've done the origin story of how Homer met Marge a half dozen times, and it always changes. Like in the early 90s, it was them in the 70s, and then in the early 2000s, it was them in the 80s, and then in the late 2000s, it was in the 90s, and you're like, this is just, it's tired. You're recycling thematic material for weak jokes.
The 90s one was it was not only lame, but it hurt my feelings so much. I'm like, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
I don't need to be reminded that death is coming. Thank you, Simpsons.
Oh, that's my whole I mean, that's the story of my life anymore. Like death is coming. You know, you're just waiting for this shit. And it I mean, what are you gonna do? You know, because the culture just recycles itself, and you're like, oh, I remember this the first time, or what was probably the third time it happened in the 20th century.
Midlife crisis, bro. Get an earring.
I mean, I used to have a bunch. I just took them all out. I did my midlife crisis in my 20s and 30s. So rather than like really leaning in when I was younger, I just did it so that when I was in my 40s, I'd just be kind of poor and, you know, having done a bunch of the shit that I wanted to do already. So, you know, my bucket list isn't too deep because, you know, what does there need to be? Yeah, I mean, we did lose Michelle, but she'll be back in a second. We ought to start a GoFundMe to get her a new computer because it keeps dying in the middle of these. So I guess the other part of this, there was a line, and I can't remember who said it, but I'm going to turn your wildest dreams into ordinary reality. Was that Dr. Beeler?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, that's like...
It sounds like something he would say. I didn't...
It's so perfect. Like, we're going to take this wondrous thing, we'll just normalize it and make it boring. And then you'll get desensitized to it and you won't care anymore. Like Wi-Fi on a plane. Then it just becomes expected. You're like, fuck this. It doesn't work. What if you could 3D print anything? We'll qualify it by saying inanimate. So not a person, but an object that could either be something from your imagination or an exact replica of something else. And taking the whole question of it's 3D printing, so it has to be plastic out of the equation. What would
a $100 bill?
I mean, that's setting a low bar. What would you do, Tim?
I don't know. I was trying to think of some object that I would really want, but $100 bill is pretty good. The only thing I could think of is the machine that prints $100 bills.
Well, exactly. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, the trick to doing something like that, and I guess ultimately that's what Bender was doing, was he was creating a cow to sell the milk by getting the guitar so he could do the folk singing. But like, it's like when you get the wishes from the genie, you wish for perpetual wishes so that you can just keep going. So it would be, I'd want to find that thing where it's like, oh yeah, I want this thing, but this thing will then continue to produce value ad nauseum until I'm done. You rejoined us, Michelle, you and the birds.
Yes.
So the question that I asked the Toims, I guess if I put your names together with the same consonants, if you could 3D print an exact anything inanimate, so no people or animals or anything, but if you could make an exact replica copy of something, whether from your imagination or something that already exists, what would that be?
If I could 3D print any inanimate object from memory, what would it be? Do you think I could even remember something well enough to accurately?
Nah, we'll take that all. It doesn't have to be something you've even like seen or touched. Just you're like, oh, I want that.
It's like in Star Trek, if you could just be like, computer, make me this.
Yeah.
I would have it 3D print me a brand new computer because mine is old and keeps disconnecting from the internet.
see another good answer, and then you could monetize that computer. So now on the right track. I like the $100 bill printing machine. It would just have to be legit so that it's not like, you don't want to get on Secret Services.
So therefore, it would actually be a $100 bill.
I mean, it would also be counterfeit if it wasn't issued by the U.S. Mint, but still good. Maybe you could just...
They would know.
That's the beauty of the machine.
What about a 3D printing helmet that reads your brain and just shoots out 3D printing replicas of what you want?
I don't know if I would like that.
That could get really hairy. Sometimes literally.
When it accidentally gets into your subconscious.
I mean, look,
Mom, what are you doing here?
It doesn't even have to do that. It could get right up into my frontal cortex and still be deeply troubling. Just, depending on what's happening and what I'm looking at on the internet. The line that Fry dumps off, and I think this is after they get back. Fry gets slashed up by Dr. Brutaloff. I assume he was reapprehended inside the prison, but then it must be interesting to win a knife fight. I wouldn't know. I mean, I wish we'd seen more knife fights with Fry losing in them. I think that would be a compelling episode compared to this one. Just he decides to become a knife fighter, and he keeps losing.
Maybe it was on one of the cards on the writer's walls, and it just never happened.
It just never came up, so they did it.
This is all the jokes in this are ridiculous in the way that improv groups are ridiculous. Like, oh, we're a folk singer now, and now I'm still knife fighter. I think, what, I think that's a very astute observation about this. Like, that really kind of nails it, where it's like, there's no real through line. It's a lot of non sequiturs, but not funny non sequiturs. Just like, let's abruptly turn here. Lots of good Zoidberg dialogue. I mean, I'm always a fan, and it seems like in the last few episodes they've really trotted Zoidberg out for some decent moments. The one thing he had was, but Robot, you can't just make up folk songs like you can a medical diploma. They have to come from the heart. And then he pointed to his head, and that was just like a nice trifecta of that whole thing. But like, again, underscoring the point, and it's this revisionist history thing where like Bender he reduces all folk songs to a successful formula, which modern country music has done for the most part. At pop music in general, I mean, it's just, all right, we've got whatever goes on top.
Repeat that.
But I really repeat it.
Yes.
The drum beats and the farty bass and whatever goes on top.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I said drum beats.
You cut out.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't like farty bass, maybe. But there's and I know you're a fan of the country music, I would assume leaning more towards the older or what gets referred to as alt country now, but even though it's just like that stuff.
Even with the alt country stuff, like they're like me, but like those guys, they all like grew up on punk and then got into country when their grandpa died and they got all the records and they're like, oh, this is great.
Mhm.
And I just never went through a punk phase. So it's like, I never, there's just something in there that doesn't jibe with me. I just listen to old music.
Right. And I think a lot of that is just slapped on it. I mean,
Pete,
the modern
again,
polished country.
Pete, hold
yeah.
on. Oh, you cut out again. A lot of what?
A lot of the modern pop country is really just like pop music with fiddles. It's like they throw that on with a cowboy hat, but if you change who's singing it and change the arrangement very minimally, it could be, I don't even know who pop singers are anymore.
It's all kind of the same. It's all like weird top 40 Saturday Night Live guest stuff.
Yeah.
The genre really doesn't matter.
And I remember there's probably sundry internet videos. I saw one, but they had like 4 top 10 country hits and they lined them all up in Pro Tools. And then while they were lined up, they just toggle between the songs as the wave, as if they played it. And it would be like the drum beats didn't change. The chord changes all fit together and were the same. The lyrics all fit together. So, I mean, it literally has been reduced down to this formula. And I think ultimately...
you could also do that with almost any genre, though, because a genre is almost made up of a certain chord progression that has that sound. So, therefore, I mean, I've seen it with pop music. I've seen it with hard rock. I've seen it with all kinds of things where it's just like certain... I just don't think...
absolutely, especially when it gets to a level where it's selling a lot, because in order to sell a lot, they just gun it down the middle towards lowest common denominator.
Yeah, and also I think country... I think the way country had evolved and what is considered country now is just like what is considered rock now. I mean, it's really not rock what is considered rock.
It's kind of Kid Rock's fault.
It's all Kid Rock.
Yeah, what's not?
Everything that has happened in the last however many years that he had a hit on the Billboard, it's been his fault.
Josie's death, the resurgence of syphilis and gonorrhea, poor diction.
I blame him.
Listen,
I blame him for Al Gore losing. All right.
Who do you think those cops in Minneapolis were listening to psych themselves up to go
murder someone with impunity?
Yeah. To go violate some civil rights. They were listening to Kid Rock.
They were going to get in the
probably
pit
has
and
a
try to
song
love
called
someone.
Violate Civil Rights. Yeah.
Oh God.
Getting out in the fight, violating civil rights. And then we're gonna get some pussy.
Jeez.
I mean, you're a hit maker, Tim.
Yeah, I get it. I know.
I mean, so I guess at base then is that sort of what this episode was based on? Were they doing Bender's plotline of I've reduced all folk music down to a formula to just kind of underscore that, or was that just Bender being Bender?
I mean, I think that had probably something to do with why they wrote this episode, because that was kind of the thing where he was just like, I can come up with this. And the song that he sang at the open mic night wasn't a bad song.
The Ballad of Rodriguez or Bender Rodriguez?
Ramblin' Rodriguez.
Yeah. All right.
But
somebody killed somebody.
The show is also formulaic with all the like similar beats.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they were making fun of themselves.
Probably not.
You never know.
Just Ken Keeler.
I mean, he could have had that intention and just everyone was just like, oh, this is what we're running. Or they just throw out the stories and they're like, yep, okay, we just got 10 more to get through.
I don't know. I think it's like showing up to an intervention drunk. I just don't get it.
I mean, so he goes to an open mic to make his debut, steals the stage from Silicon Red. I mean, honestly, the only part of it I liked was when Fry was like, all this corncob pipe smoke is irritating my stab wounds. But, it's just like, okay, so he plays this song and the people don't like it because it's insincere. I mean, have you ever been to an open mic? Or maybe that's the problem. Like most of the open mics I go to or have been to, because it's been ages, even pre-COVID before I'd gone to one, is like, boy, these people are really earnest. They're really, really earnest. And that makes me uncomfortable when somebody's like that heartfelt in a song, because all of my shit's written with an insulation of like, yeah, ultimately I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, like, who do you think you are? Don't go up here and feel in front of me.
God, stop being so honest and open. Jesus Christ.
I mean, I know that makes me sound bad, but yeah, stop being so honest and open. I'm trying to enjoy my pizza. This is pizza time.
You're only allowed to emotionally manipulate me in a long-term emotionally abusive relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stop trying to shortchange it.
Stop trying to make me care in a bar.
Yeah.
You know what open mic scene was done expertly and hilariously was the one they just did on What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh God, yes, that was so good.
Where Laszlo and Nadia take credit for writing every hit song of like the last 500 years, and they show up at this thing and start playing their song. and then you spoiler alert, everybody's like booing them and hates them, and they're just going on, and then they sing Kokomo, which they claim to have written. And everybody just starts dancing and singing along, having a beautiful time. I mean, like that was fantastic because they captured that, like, the despair of it, or the pathos of being like, God, these guys suck.
That's one of the best shows on TV right now.
Absolutely.
Hands down.
I haven't I watched the first episode and then I just I got into other things and never came back to it.
Worth
so
a revisit. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go back. I'm just watching YouTube videos about lawn care now. That's the only thing that I watch.
You gotta get those grubs out of it.
Oh my God, I do have to get the grubs out of it. Like, I've turned 40 and I care about I'm about to turn 40 and I care about my lawn so much now.
I'm trying to kill as much as mine as I can with giant pools. Giant pools.
I just read an article like a few weeks ago about the generation and having a good lawn versus like younger people, where that isn't necessarily as important. Like millennials, it's not important to have like a good lawn, and that there was like an argument to not care about your lawn and it would save water and pesticides and all kinds of things.
All you have to do
see, now I'm going into it with that mind. Like a traditional like golf course lawn is like, it is terrible. Like, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get grass to grow now, but like there's a lot of things that can cover the ground that aren't grass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it with a mind towards like pretty much making like my backyard a dog park. So it's like, what can dogs trample on?
Dirt.
Yeah.
Dirt.
Also, that's rough with the Great Pyrenees, because it just like comes into the house in inches if he does that.
I mean, you should not, I mean, after you get done with the fire pit, build a koi pond that you can make him run through to wash off.
Just like a slip and slide into the door.
Yeah, exactly.
My one dog she will run in like circles in the backyard and has created like a complete trail with no grass in my yard.
Aw.
She's giant. So her paws just like pull up everything.
That is what I am combating right now. It's got to have like roots.
Yeah.
when I moved into this house, there's a corner of the yard. So it's like the driveway, and then there's like a concrete pad that goes back to where a picnic table and stuff is. And the one corner had just been completely degrassed by a dog, but it was just a triangle. So like the corner is here, and then like this much of it was without grass. It was perfect for me. I just cut up grass on the other half of that triangle and made a square to build my garden in. So I'm like, all right, you did half the work for me, you stupid pooch.
To the listeners of the podcast, Pete just held up his fingers to illustrate the corner of his lawn.
A real
cut out.
Just doing a real L7 situation, right? So I want to find a and stay out sign for my door. When Bender got kicked out and the door just said and stay out, like that's keep out going to the next level. It's just like, get the fuck away from here. And I'm all for it.
Oh, that would be good merch for the Slurmcast.
We're that ship sailed so long ago.
Merch.
You think we can monetize this shit?
I mean,
well, we got to even be more
there's still a few
careful.
episodes left.
We have to be even more careful because Disney owns it now.
Yeah, we gotta finish this podcast before we get caught by Disney.
Oh my God, Disney owns your past podcast now too.
Does that mean we're eligible for their health benefits and free trips to Disneyland or something? Or are we just criminals now?
Oh yeah, we're just criminals.
I don't think we're employees.
Damn it. I like, so Silicon Red was seemingly forgiving of Bender for being a total dick to him. He's just like, you just don't go to prison because that's my stick. But like, the Bender's like most on brand thing that he said in this was like, how can I fail at everything and I try and still be so great? Like there's oddly enough, now that I think of it, there's been some uproar within the Cleveland maker and market community over the last couple of days over someone that's exactly the same.
That's good.
We won't name any names, but boy, you find a way to monetize teaching white people how not to be racist, and that's if you're a white person, that's horribly disingenuous.
Yeah. I don't want to talk too much about it because in case I want to start marketing it.
Yeah. Oh no, I absolutely get it. But boy, it's been fun to watch.
Boy. Yeah.
When there's a
you could teach people how to make their dog not racist.
I do. That is actually a big part of my job.
Oh, I get it.
Because then it gets like super weird because it's like, so do you have any black friends or anything like that? And when the answer is no, be like, well, maybe let's open up our social circle a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, what not to pry too much, but what sort of descent does your mail deliverer seem to have going on?
Or they won't even say anything. I'll be like walking the dog, and then I'll be like, "There's something you guys didn't tell me. This dog has let me see inside your soul."
Did you get this from a dog rescue in Idaho? What's going on? This led into like Bender being upset about not being able to be authentic. You know, he never picked cotton or been on top of Old Smoky or worked on anything all the live long day. I mean, whatever. But that leading into the Zoidberg line of him giving Bender advice and saying, then live among the railroad men, why not? You'll come to understand them just as I have come to understand the ape men of Earth. You know, like that's really, if I could just get 22 minutes of that, just 22 minutes of Zoidberg. Like, did they ever do an episode where Zoidberg was like an advice columnist or a talk radio host?
No.
Because that would be fucking fantastic. Billy West should do that. Like, that should just be something he puts on the internet for free because he doesn't have anything better to do with his time or anything.
He has one. Zoidberg has one more story where he's the main character.
Wonderful.
Then there's
It's such a good one. I love that one.
Have you
2 or 3 with Bender, and a couple of them with Fry, a Leela one.
So have any of you guys ever gone train hopping?
No, because it's not 1895.
Also,
I've
where
been
are you
on a
gonna
train.
hop on a train? Like, they've gone by. You've seen them. There's
They're
nowhere
fast.
to hop on there.
When
They're
the
fast
rail-
until someone is on the train tracks and they have to hit them.
Mhm.
Look, there's a whole community of like crust punk train hobos out there.
They're the worst
Still?
people, though.
And
I don't know.
I'm sure still, but in the 90s certainly, because they all used to congregate down the street from where I lived, and then one of them would turn tricks on the roof that sort of jutted out from the back of my apartment building, which, you know, not to shame sex work or anything, but it's like I don't need to see it.
Juggling? Oh.
There was some plum juggling involved, I'm sure. You know, it was, but I don't, you know, get a room, so to speak.
You know, I think that might have always been the case of hobos. Like, that's pretty much always how they acted, but we just romanticized it for a long time.
Yeah. I feel like the Rusty Rail is a bar on like Denison heading into downtown. If it isn't, it should be. But that place that he goes in to find the work, like, is that...
For people that are in Cleveland, just imagine a really shitty bar as it goes outside a decent town.
Well, you know, that's layering some judgment on things. Just getting into a rundown part of town that hasn't been gentrified, where people are getting pushed. But I guess, I mean, like the sort of place where the Ugly Broad is, because that is an actual bar on Denison. You know,
there's one by me called the Game Day Tavern, which I think is what you're describing. It's real rough looking. It opens up at 4 a.m. It serves like beer and egg specials.
Which is what Pat's in the Flats used to be. And that was another bar and that would do shows, but it was like down by all of the factories and refineries by the river. So that's where guys would go in, either coming off work to get drunk or to go in before they got work, go to work.
Yeah, that's a better description of that. Would be like going from like a place that has a bunch of houses down to like an area that is just industrial. That bar. That would be Rusty Rail. I think Passing the Flats would be good. A Rusty.
I mean,
Rail.
it's for
if it
sale.
If it was on the railroad.
Well, it is down in the Flats, and it's also on the river by the boat. So you could be a boat hobo. Is that a thing? It should
Bobo?
be.
Bobo.
I mean,
I don't think you're hopping on boats to go place. You're hopping on one boat to get from one place to another place. You're a stowaway. That's
well, right. I mean, it's a different term. It sounds a little more
boat
fancy.
Hobo. There's no boat hobo.
There should be. A stowaway is a boat hobo,
I guess.
All right. Well,
There's your tagline.
We'll consult the OED and make sure that shows up in there. I've never gotten drunk and eaten anyone's big toe, much less my own. Have you eaten anyone's appendages while drunk? Or digits?
Chicken fingers.
That counts. I mean, although I don't think chicken have fingers. I mean, they have the claws on their.
Yeah,
I've eaten those.
Still counts.
But those are chicken feet, are not chicken fingers.
But they sell chicken fingers in the grocery store. So how do they get them? What are
because they're genetically grown. They're chickens without heads and giant breasts.
And giant
just
fingers.
buffalo wings and weird fingers.
Yeah,
they're nightmare creatures.
They have 8 wings. 8 wings, and each has 4 17-pound breasts and no head.
And they only appear when you're not looking directly at them.
Right. That might be where the drinking comes in. I guess why was Planet Express delivering dynamite to the railroad camp?
Why wouldn't they?
Mhm.
For plot development, Pete.
But yeah, I mean, it seems like Dynamite is thoroughly antiquated for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, taking a spaceship to a railroad camp is kind of stupid.
Well, but even the trains are running on light beams through prisms. You know, there was some change there. They were space trains, man. But like,
that is one of the greatest things that it is throughout Futurama through the entire series is how they mix the future with like oldie times, almost.
Like Back
Mm-hmm.
to the Future or Back
Hey,
to the
you know
Future
what?
3.
I can see taking 1,000 years and still not finding anything better than Dynamite.
Right.
I mean, I don't have any real experience with it, so I'm curious.
You can landscape with it. You can fish with it. What can't you do?
You know what? Did they actually pass the thing saying that you could use commercial fireworks as a just, average Joe in Ohio now?
That as far as I understand,
I heard about that.
that
So-
is passed.
This is what occurred to me last night. In the current climate that we're living in, where people are afraid of violence and protests and riots, we just made it legal to get your hands on all kinds of fucking gunpowder surreptitiously.
Yeah.
That seems real dumb.
I mean,
It also,
here's my thing about that. I'm going to get real serious right now.
yeah.
If you're going to do something with all that gunpowder that comes from fireworks, you probably already want to do something that you're going to find a way to get that gunpowder to do something to it.
It's
The rest
true.
of the people are probably just going to blow off fireworks and probably blow off appendages, and then a bunch of people are going to have to go to the hospital. That's probably
Like
what's
my-
going to happen.
Like my fucking neighbors on the other side of my back fence that do the shit every goddamn night.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Poor people
Everyone's got
love
that neighbor.
fireworks. Yeah.
Mhm.
So do rich people. That's what's going to happen is you're going to go out to Avon Lake on the 4th of July, and it's going to be like a fucking insane thing with, they used to do the Christmas lights to one up each other, and now it's going to turn into the fireworks displays.
I don't necessarily also don't think that because they're not. You can't open a fireworks store close. That wasn't in the bill. Like you can just go and bring them to Ohio and use them.
Tom, have you ever driven on an interstate?
Oh no! I'm saying that, but I don't think people now that they're legal are going to make. I don't know. Maybe they'll make a trip out there. I've gone out and gone and gotten fireworks and brought them back and set them off. But
people wouldn't drive to Michigan to get legal weed.
right. I mean, but I'm just saying fireworks are the least.
You can't
of our
really
worries
enjoy
right
fireworks on
Yeah.
the ride back, though.
If they were going to do it, they already would have done it because it wasn't that hard before. Now it's just
Right.
legal.
All you
That's
had
the
to
point.
do was write a state
Yeah.
that they were legal on a form, and then
Yeah.
you could take them and they were fine.
Right. Well, right. I mean, and you'd get Phantom
So-
fireworks coupons in the fucking Dollar Saver.
And
Yeah.
at the fireworks store, they're like, buy 2 get 6 free.
This is all Chinese gunpowder. It's not worth anything. Still knock your finger off though. My favorite part of a lot of songs is when they end.
Mhm.
That was a good thing. But the part where Fry is listening to Bender's song and then says, "You've accurately portrayed the nature of my grievance," was
Yeah,
was
I love
wonderful.
that part.
Yeah, I mean, like I had this thing happen a few months ago when my band put out our record, and I'm in the midst of like a fortunately cooling off and getting calmer divorce. My ex-wife flipped out yelling about how I'm putting songs out that are all about her. And I had to break it to her like, no, they're not. And it was a real bit like this ruined like 2 or 3 therapy sessions with each other because she just assumed like, oh, you're talking about this. I'm like, no, you're just projecting. Like, here's the big secret. When I write songs, like I have been for the last 30 years, I just make shit up.
Mhm.
And it did not go over well. But like the fact that I think this is the part where the story kind of like dovetailed into what it became. Like I think the conceit at the end was really interesting. It was just like, oh, they could have done so much cooler shit with this aside from just introducing a bunch of paradoxes into the fucking thing. Like obviously Bender was gonna bang Jezebel and however robots bang when Big Red was off doing his thing. Oh no, Big Caboose.
Big Caboose.
Big Caboose. And
His
I
name
feel
was
like
Big Caboose.
the whole shit that all the stuff that happens with all of the stuff that Bender sings about, and then you find out that it's because he was still connected to the 3D printer, is kind of lame. That's the payoff of it. But then it gets hilarious when he thinks about the octopus attacking Fry.
Yeah.
And then...
Mhm.
It's like Watchmen.
Of the Watchmen that wasn't in the Watchmen movie, the best part, you mean?
Well, it was in the TV show, sort of.
I haven't watched that yet.
Oh, it was, it's good. You should.
I
I
was
enjoyed it.
planning on it.
I mean, everybody's got plans, Michelle. But okay, so tying back to Leela wanting to get hooted at back in the prison, she's like coming on super strong to Fry over at his house or at his apartment when Big Caboose comes over to shoot Bender. But the thing that like totally distracted me, and I was trying to figure out what it was, is there was green slime hanging out of the vents in Fry's apartment. What the fuck was that?
Well, it's the robot arms, so you'd think that it's mostly robots that live there. It could be any kind of oil or lubricant or robot juice. Or it could just be like slurm. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I know that vents get nasty, but still that seemed very gross to me. I mean, and I live with a 10-year-old and used to live with 3 cats. Like it's filth is my business, so to speak. Not in a Larry Flint way, but in like an actual grime way. And seeing something like that where it's just like, oh, there's just shit running out of the vents was like, it was really distressing to me.
I have a cat behind me just meowing right now.
Yep. Mine is right next to me too.
I mean, so the whole thing about Big Caboose driving a train into Bender's shack, trying to kill him, this is where it got stupidest for me.
Mhm.
But then Bender taking the hand cart and pumping it all the way back to Earth.
Yeah, that was also dumb.
I mean, it would have been good for a second to get away, but taking that the whole way. But the one line that came in after that, and I think this was the exchange between Bender and Fry, where one of them's like, it's 3 a.m. and the other one goes, I don't care if it's 3 p.m. And when I grew up, my mom and a bunch of my aunts were nurses. So anytime you had to take a dump, it was, he's got to make a BM.
Yeah.
So like that was almost comfort food for me. But Fry holding his boundary and not letting him in, that was surprising for Fry as well. Like he all of a sudden found this backbone, but he wasn't even answering his cell phone telephone.
Because it wasn't Fry. It was a 3D printed duplicate of Fry.
Oh, see, that's just, this is where it gets all fucked up.
Mhm.
We're seeing that Bender's lyrics are coming true and he's manifesting what's actually happening because of that. But like this whole switcheroo just gets dumb because it's all, now you've got Big Caboose was a figment of his imagination. Jezebel was a figment of his imagination. Fake Bender was a figment of his imagination. Fake Fry was a figment of his imagination. Does that mean that Fake Fry was the one that Leela was trying to bang earlier? And if so, where was Fry?
Well, because real Fry and real Leela were with the professor trying to reach Bender on his cell phone telephone.
So where was was there a fake Leela too?
Must have been.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
The end is so lazy, and the joke is that writing a lazy ending to a song. That's why I think this episode is like a whole tongue in cheek of itself.
I guess.
It's not very good. They could have done it better. But I think I get what they were trying to do, really like analyzing the episode. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just, it's not that they haven't introduced paradoxes before or anything. It's just like, just get it over with already. They crushed him flatter than a MacBook Air. I mean,
Flatter than a MacBook Air, Lord.
MacBook Airs aren't even that flat anymore. My girlfriend just got a new one, and it's actually thicker than the one she just traded in.
Yeah, my Dell computer laptop is like thinner than the Mac Airs now.
I know, it's whatever. I mean, we're in the home stretch on this thing because it was not an episode I enjoyed.
It happens to a lot of shows, like, or a lot of jokes or like anything like that. All the jokes become like references to something else, and like Futurama's always like reference heavy, but like the sawhorse like railroad thing, nobody's ever seen that in real life. You've only seen that because you're a nerd and watched a million cartoons.
Yeah, and I'm old too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like a 19-year-old would have no idea what those things are. Like that there's like a sawhorse rail thing. They could probably figure it out, but
yeah, I mean, and then the fact that Bender's clone was created with a fatal flaw that was artistic integrity. I mean, who fucking who? That was just kind of dumb.
And then the rap was the worst part of it.
Oh yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. That was the worst fucking part of this whole episode. It was awful and bad and stupid. I understand that was the point, but
yeah, it was one notch up from I'm rapping Granny and I'm here to say I like to rap in a major way. It was like really like this is some tired ass shit. Whereas at least on something like Silicon Valley, when they did the joke on the first season about the mathematical paper about how long it would take to like stroke off a room full of nerds, like Mike Judge actually paid
Silicon Valley, that's so good,
mathematicians to write an academic paper on that subject. This was just like, fuck it. And actually the Rodriguez and Red rap show, very reminiscent of Kid Rock. So I think that just all goes back to the thesis we came up with earlier in the episode.
That everything is Kid Rock's fault.
Everything bad ever, Kid Rock's fault. I'll stand by those words. Oh,
he needs to be looked at.
I'd rather not. I mean, I'm sure it's got warts and weird sores on it. At the very least.
Yeah.
But God damn it, we made it through another one.
You're in the home stretch, guys. Congratulations.
We're gonna get over that finish line. So what all have you had going on besides building a fire pit and generating a new lawn and whatever, Tim? I mean, quarantine aside,
dog, the dog business is going well. I'm doing, I started doing dog stuff at a good time. I got a foothold in it right before live entertainment collapsed. So
there you go.
And then everybody bought
gave
puppies.
myself another option.
Everybody bought puppies then because they figure I'm gonna be home for a while. Fuck it.
Yeah. I literally, so it works for me. Just today I came from a quarantine dog who was like, who just was not about me. Like they're like, oh, I want to bite this guy's face off because like they've been in a insulated, protected zone for the past like 4 months.
Then you show up looking like a Yeti. And
yeah.
they're like, and I can smell that Great Pyrenees on you. This is a threat.
Oh yeah, I was a challenge to that dog, and he's like, rah, 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 like really like trying to get a piece of me.
I mean, I've been there. I don't like it. I used to have a dog that would bite women. He would only bite women.
Oh,
And when I was trying to date, he was very inconvenient. But
was the
yeah,
dog's
that's not
name Kid
good.
Rock?
oh, it was Marv Albert. But I had gotten him from a rescue, and I mean, I assume he had been horribly abused by a woman, because he would just, like, whatever the situation would, if it was a female, would jump up and try and bite their face. And then I was in a situation where I was with a woman who was having a baby who was a girl, and I'm like, well, I can't have this around, and that's heartbreaking, but you know, c'est la vie.
Yeah.
Well, so how can people find your dog training stuff?
Lifecoachfordogs.com. I just started a Northeast Ohio dog podcast to just talk with dog. It's really deep pool dog stuff. So
Yeah.
you gotta it's actually, we go episode by episode of the Dog Whisperer, and we're on episode 3, but I think there's about 17 years to get through, so we should be okay for a while. No, it's Dog Walker's Companion. You can look at it on my website. It's it's fun. We just talk with Cleveland dog business owners and
what's
and
that
let people-
website again?
Lifecoachfordogs.com.
Okay.
Spelled out.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you need if I'm 25% off at least through August. That's my special. Until the world regains some sort of sense, I am offering a discount on dog training.
How do you feel about puppy play?
Oh.
I mean, are you available for different different types?
Okay, I was about to say I love puppy play. Of course, like puppies got to play with each other. That's how they know. Like, and I know a lot of people say don't let puppies play to each other because of diseases, but
I was thinking more in the Dan Savage sense of things. Just throwing it out there. It might be another way to, nowadays in the gig economy, you need to diversify your income streams.
I mean, that's true, and comedy is no longer an option, so
I mean, when places kind of open back up, are you game for getting back out there, or is this really taking up most of your time now?
No, I'm game for getting back out there. It's good for me, and honestly, I've been writing. I am the type of comedian that the apocalypse really gets the gears going. So I've got a bunch of new material that I'm just kind of sitting on that I want to get out there.
Well, hopefully we can all see that sometime soon then.
Yeah, I hope so too. Zoom comedy is awful.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people I really enjoy that are doing shows, and I just can't bring myself to do it. It just, like, I spend most of my day at work on Zoom, and again, adding to the chore that watching Futurama for this podcast become already. Now having that other thing, it's like, oh fuck, I was on a conference call for 8 hours today. And I'm like, oh, I get to do another one. I can drink during this one. I guess it's a little better, but it's not the same. If you're not getting that feedback directly from the audience, like what are they doing? Like doing clap hands in the chat or something?
Yeah, they'll make there is nothing. You're just kind of like you just kind of perform to nobody. And like with comedy, that's really awful because you're going on for a minute and then you're like, here's my joke. And then you're like quiet in the place where you expect laughter. And the only thing you're really seeing is you expecting laughter, which is the worst thing.
I mean, that sounds like being in a punk band for 30 years. Not that I know anything about that. Thank you again for coming on. We're glad that you were able to get in here under the wire with the last season, because it's gonna end, and maybe there'll be some dynamite involved in that last episode. What do you think?
Oh yeah. You guys should totally blow something up, or get into a huge fight and never talk to each other again.
That's
Like use the last episode to really air some grievances.
I mean, you say that like it hasn't happened before, Tim.
All right, guys. Yeah, good luck and good job making it all the way. And thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So
bye.
we got slurmcast.com with all the episodes. We have slurmcastpod@gmail.com to email us, 216-438-1077 to call or text us. Anything other than a junk mail call for male erection pills or refinancing your mortgage will be welcome on that phone number. Slurmcast on Facebook, Slurmcastpod on Instagram and Twitter, and go ahead and, if you're still listening to this, rate and review us on iTunes. Always love to see it. Even if it's bad, at least you're paying attention. So have a great week, or however long it is before we come at you again, folks. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.